What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with yet another album review, and we are kicking off probably the biggest weekend for releases in the month of April, and it has to come at the end of the month, but here we are. So we got some big stuff coming out this weekend that I'm going to be talking about, and we're going to kick off the weekend of reviews with arguably the biggest release coming out this weekend, even though there's, like I said, a bunch, but just in terms of like the time it's been between their last album and this, you could say it's their biggest release in a while. We're talking about the latest offering from Deicide with Banished by Sin. Comes out on April 26th on Reigning Phoenix Music, which is a brand new label that just was created a year ago, and they're actually the parent label for quite a few different labels like Atomic Fire, I believe, as well as Fire Flash. So there's a lot of bands within this new umbrella of Reigning Phoenix Music. So just want to get that out there. But this is their 13th studio album and their first one in 6 years since Overtures of Blasphemy, which I did talk about that in my Deicide album ranking I did back in 2022, I believe. So yeah, it's been a little while since I've talked about Deicide, and of course, as you guys know, my history with Deicide is a bit complicated, and I've explained that before in the Deicide album ranking. But here we are with their first album in 6 years, and also on a new label, so it makes you wonder, did the 6-year gap help things out? Well, in some aspects, no, but in a lot of aspects, yes. Okay, so what I mean by no, I'm just going to go ahead and get this part out of the way before I just forget about it. We have to address the giant elephant in the room about this album. It's this god-awful album cover. Of course, I've talked enough about this whole topic over on Instagram, but long story short, AI art is fucking horrible unless you're using it as a joke, not to make money off of it, and takes revenue away from actual artists. So, again, if you want to hear my full opinion about this particular topic, go to my Instagram and look up one of my latest reels I did where I go more in depth about this whole topic. But yeah, long story short, I hate AI art unless it's done for a joke. But with that out of the way, why don't we talk about the music and as well as the lineup shift. So, there was a lineup shift from the last album to here, as I talked about in that Deicide ranking. No more Mark English. We now get Taylor Nordberg from Inhuman Condition over on guitars, and as well as for the production duties, he co-engineered this along with fellow member of Inhuman Condition, Jeremy Kling, but the mixing and mastering was done by Josh Wilbur, who is primarily known for doing stuff with Lamb of God. So you would think, well, with the production team that they got here, in terms of like trying to create something a little more old school but maintain a modern flair to it, in some ways works, in some ways not. So basically, before I get into the songs, probably the biggest problem I had with this production was the snare drum. I just felt like the snare drum sounded too small. Like, not my favorite snare tone ever. It's not the worst snare tone ever, not even close, but I was hoping to hear a more punchy snare sound, like something you would hear from, like, say, Cannibal Corpse, Blood Red Throne, maybe even, like, Obituary, like that more, like, punch-in-the-face snare sound. Instead, like I said, it sounds pretty small when compared to some other death metal albums I've listened to this year. But with those out of the way, why don't we get into the songs already? It's already been almost 5 minutes. I haven't even talked about the songs. So we kick things off with From Unknown Heights You Shall Fall. Kind of sets the tone and the pace for this album. Like, this album, it's about 39 minutes, give or take. A little more, a little less, depending. But all these songs kind of run like 3 minutes to a little over 3 minutes. And so you get a pretty good consistent flow throughout the album when it comes down to just getting right to the point with these songs, and it starts that way with this track, and it's got a more galloping chug to kind of build energy, and then immediately into like thrashy old school death metal territory that, you know, Deicide have been able to do for many, many years. even gets into some double time madness, which is something that kind of comes up here and there on the album, kind of gives a little bit of that, like, bolt thrower vibe, but done on a much more evil and sinister manner. And definitely starting with this track, you definitely get a sense of what a lot of the lead work is going to entail. There's some those like Slayer, Kerry King dive bombs, but you also get lots of melody, shred, and harmonies with the guitars. So I believe like Taylor and Kevin Quirion, the other guitarist, I believe they're harmonizing together on a lot of these songs. And as far as like where these harmonies appear, they appear on From Unknown Heights You Shall Fall, as well as I'm looking through my notes here, Woke from God, as well as Failures of Your Dying Lord, the title track, Banished by Sin, and even the closing track, The Light Defeated. All those songs have more harmonies going on within the lead sections, but all throughout the album you get some like great melody, but you also get those like appropriate Slayer-esque dive bombs to kind of add to the chaos. But anyways, then we get into Doomed to Die, and actually both this and the following track, Severed the Tongue, very similar in terms of like the pace it's going for, which is all about triplet chugs. And you know, I love triplet chugs all the live long day because they're infectious. And these were pretty catchy triplet chugs. Like on Doomed to Die, you get some more of those like low end tremolos and blast beats the first time you get blast beats on the album. And overall, the song itself feels more melodic than most of the songs on the album. And then whereas with Severed the Tongue, it's still very much triplet chug city, but it's got more heaviness and punch to it, but with melodic progressions on top. And even the chorus has some like start stop and doomy parts that come up here and there. The song Faithless has probably one of the best beginnings of the entire album. There's some more dissonant melodies, which I don't ever recall Deicide ever getting dissonant really at all. It's just always been about evil riffs all throughout, where dissonant riffs can be evil depending on the band, but they did it in a more darker, more melodic sense. But then it does get back to being more thrashy, but you also get blackened tremolos, and this is the first of quite a few songs where you get some more black metal inspired tremolos. Like I would say on this track, as well as I'm going through everything, the title track, and even The Light Defeated. Like, those songs, again, feature more of those blackened tremolos to kind of add some more variety, but then you do get those low-end death metal tremolos once again. Then we get to the shortest track of the album at a little under 3 minutes, Buried Across With Your Christ, which was the first single released on Christmas Day this past Christmas, which is ballsy. But yeah, this one, very much like straightforward, thrashy, but double time stomps, very much again like an Evil Bolt Thrower song. Woke from God. Now this one, going back to it, has a little bit of a melodic death metal feel, at least in the beginning, with the tremolos and the way it sounds. It kind of feels closer to Melodeath, but it does get thrashy, almost like Sodom, I would say, but very fast blast beats. Like, I would say this song's probably the fastest track on the entire album in terms of the speed. Ritual Defied starts off kind of like Testament meets Slayer with the thrashy influence, but then it grooves hard, almost like Blood Red Throne and Cannibal Corpse, which very comparable to Deicide to some degree. And then we get into, towards the end, really cool drum turnover. Like, Steve Asheem still is a madman on the kit all these years later. And then, of course, we get into Failures of Your Dying Lord. Again, more thrashy, quick-fire blast, more Cannibal Corpse in the riff department, I would say. And then the title track. This one, I like this one in terms of how it starts. Kind of reminded me of the song Cast in Stone from the newest Necrophobic album. Like, it's triplets, but with blast beats and blackened tremolos, very much like Necrophobic, before you get more triplet chugs coming along, and the tremolos act more like progressions on top of everything in the chorus, which was really cool. And the riffage is far more furious, I would say. A Trinity of None, wild tremolos that kind of sit in between high end and low end, almost like Morbid Angel, I would say. Again, and then this one kind of mixes together the thrashy element and the triplet chug element of Deicide's career, and then even riffs that bring back that Cannibal Corpse feel. And then this song title, I don't get why it's said like this, so I'm just going to say it how it should be said. I Am a Curse of Death. Morbid Angel tremolos and blasts right out of the gate with some more galloping riffs and rhythms, which was pretty cool. Even a big breakdown and chug, but with melodic progressions on top, and dissonant melodies to close it. And then the closing track, The Light Defeated, blackened tremolos and blast beats, but it leads into more of that thrashy terrain, more double time with that blackened tremolo, so they're able to like bring new life to the tremolo riff by changing up the rhythm, and grooves again, nasty riffage, and then when it comes down to what I would say, the best lead section of the entire album, while most of these leads were awesome, this was like the magnum opus of the album when it came to leads. Melody, harmony, shred, like everything when it comes down to the lead work on this album, you get it all wrapped into one with The Light Defeated, and it just brings the song and the album to a really cool close. So, despite some of the issues I had, now as far as any complaints, I will say, like, it definitely has a comfort zone it kind of sticks in, as well as perhaps sticking to, like, 2 gears, which is triplet, or actually make that 3 gears. Triplet chugs, thrashy rhythms, and double time stomps, so it can feel a little bit formulaic at times, but hey, after 6 years, it sounds like a tighter formula for them after, you know, Overtures of Blasphemy kind of being a middle-of-the-road album in my eyes. After all, I think I ranked it 8 out of 12 of the Deicide album ranking, so it was like decent, but nothing to really set the world on fire. This album, it just felt more inspired, it felt more furious. After all, with it being 6 years, it sounded like they definitely took their time to kind of work on some dynamics, because there were some cool dynamics, especially in what, like I said, when it comes to the leads, as well as some of the progressions you get in the background on some of these parts. So, overall, not that much to complain about, apart from just the fact that it sticks to a few gears, but they play those gears exceptionally well on this album. And I'll be honest, I was shocked, because I was not expecting a whole hell of a lot going into this album, considering, again, my history with this band. It's complicated, and also given their quality control over the years, it's like, who even knows what to expect at this point. But I will go ahead and say I'm going to eat my words on this one. This is a really damn good return for Deicide. Despite those few minor gripes, I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. I think this is a great representation and a great return for Deicide. Blows Overtures of Blasphemy out of the water, at least in my mind. Probably, I would say the best work they've done since Stench of Redemption, I would say. Like, I might even like this album a notch more than In the Minds of Evil, I would say. So, overall, great album. I'm probably going to pick this one up pretty soon. So, as far as, like, everything, if you love Deicide, but you also like old school death metal or old school oriented death metal bands, so Cannibal Corpse, Blood Red Throne, Morbid Angel, Vital Remains, then check this out. So yeah, this was a longer review because there was just more to talk about with this, considering this was a highly anticipated release. But hey, it's a great album nonetheless, and of course that's just my opinion. What did you guys think of Banished by Sin by Deicide? Let me know in the comments. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Keep your horns high and your dreams wet.